If an older adult is being abused or might be at risk of being abused or exploited, don't ignore it. Take action. Take steps if you know or suspect an older person is experiencing financial abuse and possibly other forms of abuse from an adult child or relative or from anyone. The proper steps include checking to see if the victim is aware of the situation. Get a sense of how the victims see the situation. They might not be aware of suspicious activity or not recognize the signs of financial abuse by a caregiver or POA agent. They also could be afraid of what might happen if they complain. Even if the older adult refuses your help, keep checking in with them. Enlist others who can express their feelings of concern to them. Sometimes a peer or a neutral party, such as another family member or a geriatric care manager, may have a better chance of getting through. Avoid confronting the abuser yourself unless you have the elder's permission and can take steps to protect financial assets. Confronting an abuser may motivate the abuser to engage in further fraud or put the older person in danger of retaliation. Make sure the older adult has access to medical services. A deteriorating physical or mental condition may be improved with good medical care, so share your concerns with the elder's medical provider if possible. Gather information and make and date contemporaneous notes. Those are notes made at the time or shortly after an event occurs. Do this to support a criminal or a civil investigation. Include the name and address of the victim, the date and location of the suspected abuse, and specifics of the abuse. Include the license plate and description of a vehicle if one is involved. Dated contemporaneous notes made shortly after an event or revelation are important because they represent the best recollection of what you witnessed and what was said by whom. It's also helpful to collect emails and other documentation as supporting evidence. The more information you can provide, the better the chance that action can be taken to stop the abuse, perhaps recover lost assets, and prevent physical and emotional damage to the elder and potentially the whole family. Many seniors do not report the abuse they face, even if they are able to. Some fear retaliation from the abuser, whereas others view having an abusive caretaker as better than having no caretaker and being forced to move out of their own home. When the caregivers are their children, they may feel ashamed that their children are inflicting harm. They may blame themselves, or they may not want children they love to get into legal trouble. However, they may admit to the abuse if asked. It can be a challenge to respect older adults' rights to autonomy while at the same time making sure they are properly cared for. Remember, it is probably better to raise the issue and perhaps provoke unpleasant feelings or a family disagreement if that is what it takes to bring an important issue to light. Anyone who has a reasonable suspicion or knowledge that an adult is being abused, abandoned, exploited, neglected, or intimidated, or is self-neglecting, should make a report to the Wyoming Department of Family Services, Adult Protective Services Elder Abuse Hotline, or to local law enforcement. Anyone making such a report in good faith is immune from civil liability, even if the investigation indicates that there is no wrongdoing. Names of those who file such reports are kept confidential. Most states have enacted laws that mandate the reporting of elder abuse by certain professionals, but in Wyoming, everyone is a mandatory reporter. According to Wyoming law, everyone must report suspected abuse, neglect, or exploitation of a vulnerable adult or child if they have reasonable cause to believe that it may be occurring. To that end, it is important for a report to be accompanied by as much documentation as possible. Penalties for having a reasonable belief and not reporting are a misdemeanor, with up to a $1,000 fine or up to 1 year in jail. Reports are generally directed to an agency authorized to initiate an investigation, such as the Department of Family Services and Adult Protective Services in Wyoming. Other states also have similar agencies as well. Attorneys can't act in any way contrary to the benefit of their client, but sometimes it may not be clear who the attorney's client may be. For example, both the adult child of a senior and the senior may have the same attorney. If that child is a fiduciary for the senior, it creates a conflict of interest. For this reason, attorneys in some states are exempt as mandatory reporters, but this doesn't solve the problem. If a conflict of interest, such as representing a suspected abuser of an elder who is also a client, the Ethical Code of Attorney Practice indicates that the attorney should cease representing that client, but sometimes they don't cease representing a suspected perpetrator. Sometimes an attorney even facilitates or colludes in exploitation of elders. When you are ready to make a report about both suspected or confirmed abuse, there are many organizations that can help you. In particular, Adult Protective Services provides social services for vulnerable adults, including older adults and adults with significant disabilities who have been abused, neglected, or exploited. In Wyoming specifically, you can also contact the Wyoming Department of Family Services to file a report. You can also get in touch with any of the other organizations listed here. Remember, even if you only suspect abuse, it is recommended to report what you have seen and heard. A Wyoming Department of Family Services caseworker, law enforcement officer, or both will contact the vulnerable adult and caregiver to arrange a home visit and complete an assessment of the situation. The person making the report may be contacted for further information. A report of suspected abuse or exploitation is not an accusation. It's a link to services for families who would not voluntarily seek help or for older adults who may not be aware that they are being exploited. If there is an investigation, the result will be a finding of either substantiated or unsubstantiated. If the report is substantiated, then the name of the person who abused the elder is entered into the Wyoming DFS Central Registry of Child and Vulnerable Adult Abuse and Neglect. Substantiated investigations are referred to the county and district attorney for possible legal action. If the report finding is unsubstantiated, then the caseworker concluded there was insufficient information regarding the allegation for any formal action. The person reporting the suspected abuse is not liable if abuse or exploitation was not substantiated. If an investigation should develop into a civil or criminal case, you may be able to assist the prosecuting attorney by doing any of the following. Therefore, when you make a report, it would be a good idea to have this information prepared. Legal authorities have a range of criminal justice actions to assist victims of abuse. Often when elder financial exploitation occurs, a crime has been committed. Here's a list of possible resulting criminal activity. In some cases, the victim may have experienced more than one type of abuse to include physical, sexual, verbal, emotional, financial, and cultural, so different actions may be pursued. In addition, state law regulates some facilities and programs, notably long-term care facilities. The Wyoming Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program has the responsibility to investigate, advocate, and mediate on behalf of adults receiving long-term care services. If the principal resides in another state, similar laws may also apply. Law enforcement and the county or district attorney may or may not decide to pursue criminal actions. However, having a report on file could be useful if suspicions of abuse continue. However, individuals can pursue their own private or civil actions. If civil action is the best option for the elder, these are some of the actions that could be considered. Remedying financial exploitation can be challenging. Judicial procedures can be cumbersome and subject to delays. Evidence and witnesses might be unavailable, and the family may not have the resources for a judicial battle. Consequently, prevention is much more effective than trying to address abuse and exploitation after the fact. Privately, there are several actions that can also be taken. You could hire a fraud investigator or certified fraud examiner to gather facts and collect evidence regarding crimes. You could also obtain a separation or divorce for the elder if a spouse is abusive or exploiting financially. You can also do many things to try and rectify the elder abuse. This includes seeking an accounting of the elder's estate, pursuing private legal action to recover assets, pursuing a negotiation, mediation, or arbitration, rescinding transfers or voiding documents due to fraud, and redrafting the power of attorney document. If financial abuse is suspected, report it to the Wyoming Department of Family Services, Adult Protective Services, or law enforcement promptly. In fact, as discussed previously, you have a mandatory obligation to report because everyone in Wyoming is a mandatory reporter when it comes to elder abuse. Collect and document as much information and evidence as you can to support your case of elder abuse. And although the best way to rectify elder abuse is to prevent it from happening in the first place, there are many options you can choose from to stop the abuse and protect your elder in their future. For more resources and information, you can reach out to your local extension educator. You can also check out UW Extension's website on EFFE, power of attorney, and elder abuse.